Hello and welcome to another wilderness tamed video. In this one we're planting up an alpine bed. So I was fortunate enough to go to a local nursery last week, a very frosty, cold January week, and the lads pretty much said, "Oh yeah, help yourself to the alpines. We're knocking a bit of money off the price because they're frozen solid." Well, that's what alpines do. Like I say, they come from mountain scree slopes and things where they are going to freeze for months at a time quite often. So it didn't worry me in the slightest that these plants were at that time frozen, because now this week they're not, and they look great. I'll flip the camera and let you have a look. So here's some of the old compost and coarse grit getting mixed in together. Some people with alpines would top the whole bed off. There's a bit more coarse grit here. They top it off and have a covering of coarse grit to make it look more alpine-y. Something resembling this, but as you can see, this is not up to the height of the brickwork yet, which is what I want to achieve. So there's a bit more compost to go in there. And here's a selection of alpines. So I tended to go for 3 of each, harking back to my horticultural training. Always plant things in 3s and 5s. Nice little selection. I will add more because it's quite a length of wall. And all I'm doing is working the grit into the compost, also sort of levelling off, getting the depth right at the same time. So I'm going down at the depth of the fork tines there. It's just to work the grit into a decent depth. It's be the depth of the pots probably. In fact, let's test that. Bang on. And working the grit in down to the depth of the roots and a bit beyond. It's just to help with drainage, because again, where these plants naturally occur, the water doesn't sit in the soil for very long. That's why a lot of sort of true alpines are almost succulent in nature, in that they retain a lot of moisture in the leaves. This is a good forearm workout. So it leads to repetitive strain injury. But I think I've been doing this for long enough to know that I don't suffer with repetitive strain injury. I just have very good forearms. So there you go, pretty much ready to plant into. Got a little bit more, so this last bag of grit is, and that stretch there. So I'm going to get some compost from one of the old patio pots to top this up. Now, of course, what you want to check for when you're using old compost from tubs and troughs and things is that it doesn't have anything nasty in it, such as vine weevil grubs or leather jackets. So, well, you wouldn't find leather jackets in a pot because they're mainly a turf pest. So your crane flies are going to look for fairly neglected turf to lay their eggs in. So A little bit of grit. So no signs of vine weevils in here. Definitely would have come across some by now. There are some old slow release fertilizer granules, which a lot of people, I think I've mentioned in a previous video, a lot of people think these are ants' eggs. Would not like to meet the ant that laid an egg that size. The size of a Labrador. But yeah, free of any unsavoury bugs, so that's safe to add in to this now, which I will do using the trowel just to try and reduce the amount I spill. Slow process, you probably don't want to watch all of this, so I'll bring you back at the end. Another pot here, so again just before I put it into the raised bed with the new plants. I don't want to check that there's anything in here. Oh, there is. It would eat the roots, so I can't use the compost from this pot. Okay, so I'm onto a different pot now, and there was a plant in this which I lifted out and have disposed of, and it was difficult to get out. It had a good root system, which suggests that the roots haven't been nibbled away by any, oh here we go, oh no, fertilizer, by any vine weevils. Maybe it's just one of those plants that vine weevils don't like. See, there's just no signs of any in here at all. Quite often find them around the edges of the pots, so that's a good place to dig around. No. Definitely would have seen some by now, especially digging into the middle where the plants were. And again, I think that is just that isn't a vine weevil. It's a bit bluish, and it's gone now. Fertilizer granule. Here's another one. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that we can use this compost to put the bed. And again, it's probably had those plants in for a year or two, or at least a season, which is long enough to deplete all the nutrients that are leaching out of these little granules. So it's going in. So this bed's nicely prepared now with a mix of coarse grit and old spent compost. So there's very little nutrient value. So I'm going to space the plants out, get them arranged and get them planted in. So here's a thyme which will trail nicely over the wall, add a bit of scent and attract lots of bees. We're going back to our biosecurity that we did. I want to check this for vine weevils before I put it in, and the fact that there are none around the rim of the pot suggests there's none in the root ball. Because the thing you find with vine weevils, and trust me, I've had a lot of experience of digging around in pots for vine weevils, is they always come to the pot edge and then tunnel their way through the roots around the edge of the pot. And as there's absolutely no evidence of that, that's good to go in. So I'll do that with the rest of the plants and then show you how I've got them set out. So I've got them spaced out. I used the tray that they came in to get the spacings between each one, which is quite a distance, with the odd random sempervivum stuck in between a few of them. I've kept kept the varieties together as much as possible. So there's the helianthemums separated by a freaky sempervivum, but then there's 3 flocks here together, again sempervivum in between, and I have put one of the helianthemums at the end because they can get a little bit on the taller side, but that'll fill out a good section there, as will the thyme at the opposite end. So what I'm going to do is clag them in. So there you go, that was planting up an alpine bed. Fairly straightforward. The thing you've got to remember is, where do these plants originate? And a lot of people don't think about that. I've seen people, in fact there's a garden at the bottom of my street, they've created little beds in their lawn, planted up with alpines, but they're right at the foot of 2 mature ash trees. Alpines don't grow in essentially a woodland situation. They don't do well. They want to be sun-baked, wind-blown, and exposed to the elements, because that's where they grow. They grow on, low vegetation, rocky, gravelly, gritty hillsides or mountainsides, mountain tops in some cases. So yeah, just a little bit of research, a little bit of thought. If anything has the label alpine on it, well, in a garden centre situation, not everything with a label saying alpine is an actual alpine. They kind of bunch all low-growing, slow-growing plants into that, whereas some of them are not true alpines, as in you wouldn't naturally find them growing up on a scree slope on a mountainside. But anyway, apart from that, that was how it's done, or that's how I do it. And as I say, I would probably mix in a few more plants into that bed. I'll certainly try and source some nice low-growing alpine type bulbs to put in there as well. But yeah, fairly simple job. Hope it's inspired you to go out and even just, doesn't have to be a purpose-built raised bed. You can use pots and troughs to plant up with alpines, and take it from there, see where you go. But remember that planting medium, poor quality, low nutrient and very gritty. Whoop.